The flights were well chosen by these terrorists. All four bound for the West Coast, loaded with fuel. The 767 weighs 160 tons, including 45 tons of jet fuel fully loaded. A 757 weighs 100 tons, with 30 tons of jet fuel. Both planes dwarf the explosive power of the now tiny fuel oil bomb that tore off the face of the Murrah building in Oklahoma City. Finally, whoever planned this attack knew a decisive detail about the physics of tall buildings.
The energy required to bring it down is already stored in the structure in the form of potential energy. All the energy used to raise those construction materials into place in the late 60s and early 70s when they built the structure is there if you could just find a way to release it and let gravity take over.
Marc Loiseau is president of a company called Controlled Demolition. Release a building's stored energy, he says, its collapse becomes a matter not of terrorism, but the laws of physics.
You don't have to go to the top floor. You can go almost anywhere in the structure, and given the right circumstances, you can release all of that stored energy, converting it into what is called kinetic energy. That's energy in motion, and that's what brings the building down.
Yet the impact of the planes alone did not cause that failure. In fact, tall building designers try to anticipate air accidents.
When this structure was designed, it was designed, to the best of my understanding, to take the impact of what was then the state-of-the-art airplane being used in our country, the Boeing 707. And if you noticed that when the planes impacted Towers 1 and Tower 2, the structure stood.
As time progressed, what was clear to anyone in New York City or to the millions of people watching the horror unfold on television, fire was engulfing the building. The worst enemy of a steel-reinforced structure is heat. Extreme heat. Physics professor and explosives expert Van Romero.
At what point was there no chance of survival, do you think?
Once the fire starts inside the building, once the building structure itself, the materials inside that building start to burn, it can race through the building faster than you can run.
Engineers suspect the temperatures inside the crash areas could have quickly reached well over 1,000 degrees, perhaps approaching 2,000 degrees. Beyond the melting point of any steel. The heat would have obliterated the insulation around the structure, the fire suppression system. Once this happened, nothing could save the Twin Towers.
When the plane hits the building, the kinetic energy, if you will, or the momentum of the plane hitting the building is actually pretty small compared to the fuel. When the fuel explodes from the jet fuel that's on the airplane, that can really have much more devastating effect on the building itself.
As engineers look at what happened to the building yesterday, they see that the window of escape was in fact tiny. The chance of survival had everything to do with where and when people started their escapes in relation to the crucial impact areas where the planes hit. It took at least 15 minutes for people to make it from the 80th floor to ground level. Those people left the building as it was collapsing.
We were up the escalator about to go out the door when the building collapsed.
If I didn't leave the minute that I left, I would be dead.
For those who waited or were above the area of the crash damage, there was perhaps no escape. In looking at the rubble in Lower Manhattan, it's as though someone was trying to learn from the much less devastating World Trade Center bombing back in 1993. Experts say this attack seems to suggest someone learned those lessons very well.
They did their homework. Even if there was no secondary explosives in the building, having the airplane hit the building where it did, a large amount of weight above the damaged location, that damaged location being further damaged by the fire, that structure could no longer support the weight above it, and the collapse ensues.
There may eventually be new lessons from this attack for builders, engineers, and designers. Certainly the security of every airport, the entire air traffic control system, even the ability of air passengers to take bathroom breaks will be different from now on.
Perhaps the most chilling realization here is how low-tech this attack was in the end. No sophisticated missiles, no stolen nukes, no exotic biowarfare or chemical agents. The main decisive weapon here was determination.
This attack was a reminder that comparatively simple techniques in the hands of a totally determined terrorist with the right knowledge, sufficient resources on the right day, as we all saw, is more than enough to strike deep into the heart of the most powerful nation in the world.